Supreme Admiral Woojin Choi stood in the command center of humanity's greatest vessel, the Cosmic Genesis. The ship was so massive that it had its own weather systems, with clouds forming and disappearing in the upper levels of the command tower. Artificial gravity wells kept everything in place while the ship existed partially outside normal spacetime. From any point in the galaxy, the Cosmic Genesis could appear instantly. It was not bound by the laws of physics that limited other vessels. When Supreme Admiral Choi needed to be somewhere, reality simply rearranged itself to bring him there. "Report," he said to the officers around him. Captain Yun-Hai Song, his intelligence chief, turned on the main display. "All 12 member species of the Galactic Council have asked for immediate negotiations. The Valkyrie Empire surrendered completely after we showed them what the Silent Covenant could do." "Casualties?" Choi asked. "None on our side. The alien fleets were completely destroyed, but we followed protocols and moved their crews to safety before converting the ships to energy." Choi nodded approvingly. Even in war, humanity tried to save lives when possible. It was one of the things that separated them from the enemies they had once fought. "What about the others? The species not on the council?" 43 minor empires have asked for protection treaties," Captain Song replied. "They are offering to place their fleets under human command. The rest are staying neutral until they see how this develops." "Smart of them," Choi said. "And the council chambers?" "Being rebuilt according to your specifications. The ceremony will begin in 6 hours." Meanwhile, on the Galactic Council station, workers were frantically rebuilding the main chamber. The old circular design where all species sat as equals was being replaced with something that reflected the new reality. The human delegation would sit at the head of the chamber, elevated above the others. Not because humanity wanted to rule, but because they were taking responsibility for protecting the galaxy. With great power came the burden of leadership. Ambassador Thexlan of the Valkyrie Empire waited in his private quarters. His once proud uniform was wrinkled, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. In the span of a few days, everything he thought he knew about the galaxy had been proven wrong. A soft chime announced a visitor. Commander So-Young Park entered, looking exactly as she had during their first meeting. But now Thexlan saw her differently. This was not a desperate diplomat from a weak species. This was a representative of the galaxy's true rulers. "Ambassador," Park said politely. "I hope you are well. What are you?" Thexlan asked quietly. "What is humanity really?" Park sat down across from him. "We are your guardians. We have been for 50,000 years, even when you did not know it." "Guardians against what?" Park touched a control on her wrist and a floating display appeared between them. It showed images that made Thexlan's blood run cold. Entire galaxies gone dark, solar systems consumed and converted into raw materials, worlds stripped of all life, leaving only empty husks behind. "The Devourers," Park said simply. "They move through the universe, consuming everything in their path. They have destroyed civilizations older and more advanced than anything the current galaxy can imagine." Thexlan stared at the images. "Where are they now?" "Coming here. Our long-range sensors detected them months ago. They have consumed 3 galaxies since we went into hiding. Now they are heading toward the Milky Way. How long do we have? Perhaps 50 years. Maybe less if they move faster than expected." Thexlan felt fear unlike anything he had ever experienced. His empire's greatest weapons would be toys against enemies who could eat entire star systems. "Can they be stopped?" he asked. "Yes," Park said with quiet confidence. "But not by the technology your people currently have. The weapons and defenses needed to fight the Devourers require resources and capabilities that span multiple galaxies." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "This is why we hid," she continued. "The Devourers are attracted to advanced civilizations. Large fleets, powerful weapons, massive space stations, all of these things draw their attention. By pretending to be primitive, we made the galaxy look uninteresting. But now you are revealing yourselves. Because the time for hiding is over. The younger species have grown advanced enough to attract attention anyway. The Harkons are building planet crackers. The Zeltar have developed quantum weapons. The Valkyrie Empire spans 1,000 worlds." Park turned back to face him. "The galaxy looks exactly like ours did 50,000 years ago, when the Devourers first attacked. If we do nothing, history will repeat itself." 6 hours later, the reformed Galactic Council met for the first time. The chamber looked completely different. Where once there had been a circle of equals, now there was a clear hierarchy. Humanity sat at the head, with the other species arranged according to their size and capabilities. President Sora Kim entered the chamber wearing simple robes, but everyone present could feel the weight of authority she carried. Behind her walked Supreme Admiral Choi and the other members of humanity's true leadership. Leaders of the galaxy, President Kim began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. We are here to discuss the future, not just the next few years, but the next few thousand years. She activated a floating display that filled the chamber. Images of the Devourers appeared, showing their relentless advance across the universe. This is what destroyed our first civilization, Kim said. This is what forced us to hide and pretend to be weak. In approximately 50 years, they will arrive in this galaxy. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several ambassadors began talking frantically to their aides. However, Kim continued, we are not the same species that fled 50,000 years ago. We have had time to prepare. We have built defenses that span multiple realities. We have weapons that can unmake entire dimensions. The display changed to show humanity's true fleets. Thousands of vessels that dwarfed anything the younger species had imagined. Mobile shipyards that could construct entire armadas in days. Weapon platforms that could shield solar systems from attack. You have a choice, Kim said. Accept humanity's protection and guidance in preparing for this threat, or face the Devourers with the technology you currently possess. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Thexelon was the first to stand. The Velkari Empire accepts humanity's leadership, he said formally. We place our fleets and resources at your disposal. One by one, the other ambassadors stood and made the same declaration. Some did it enthusiastically, grateful for protection. Others did it reluctantly, understanding they had no real choice. Within hours, the news had spread across the galaxy. Humanity was no longer hiding. The primitive species that everyone had dismissed was actually the galaxy's oldest and most powerful civilization. They had revealed themselves not to conquer, but to protect. On worlds throughout known space, people looked up at the stars with new understanding. The hyperspace lanes they used had been built by humans. The ancient ruins they studied were human constructions. The myths and legends about godlike beings who had once ruled the stars were not myths at all. 3 months later, Admiral Taemin Lee stood on the bridge of the restored battleship Eternal Dawn, watching as construction fleets began building the galaxy's new defenses. Massive space stations were being positioned at key hyperspace junctions. Weapon platforms that could destroy entire fleets were being installed around major worlds. Status report, he said to his operations officer. Defense grid is 40% complete, Captain Min-Soo Park replied. The younger species are adapting well to our technology transfers. The Velkari are particularly good at operating the new shield generators, Lee nodded. The younger species were proving more capable than expected. Given access to humanity's advanced technology and training, they were quickly becoming valuable allies rather than protected children. Any word from the Deep Scouts? Lee asked. Long-range probes report the Devourers are still approximately 50 years away, but they have begun accelerating. They may arrive sooner than expected. Then we need to work faster, Lee said. Signal all construction fleets. Increase production by 50%. As orders went out across the galaxy, billions of beings worked together toward a common goal. Humans shared technology that had been secret for thousands of years. Alien engineers learned to build weapons that could crack reality itself. Former enemies became allies in the face of a threat that could destroy everything they had ever known. The galaxy was united under humanity's ancient wisdom and incredible power. For the first time in 50,000 years, they had a real chance of victory when the ultimate test came. In the darkness between galaxies, the Devourers sensed the change. The Milky Way was no longer the primitive backwater they had dismissed. It was becoming a fortress defended by technology they recognized from civilizations they had consumed long ago. They began moving faster, eager to test themselves against the galaxy's new defenses. The greatest battle in cosmic history was approaching, but now it would be a real fight instead of a one-sided massacre. Humanity had finally stopped hiding. The secret was revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Yonseo Kim woke up in a place that should not exist. The command center of the Eternity Unbound stretched for kilometers in all directions, filled with technology that made the laws of physics seem like suggestions rather than rules. She was the great-granddaughter of Captain Dong-Ho Kim, but her family line was far older than the galaxy knew. The ship had been sleeping at the edge of the galaxy for 30,000 years, waiting for the day when humanity would need its true power. That day had finally come. "Status report," she said to the empty air. The ship's computer responded immediately. Its voice sounded like wind through old trees. "All systems working, Admiral. Deep fleet vessels are waking up throughout the galaxy. The younger species are beginning to understand what they have challenged." Admiral Kim walked to the main viewing area. Through the clear walls, she could see space itself bending around her ship. The Eternity Unbound was not just large. It was so massive that it created its own gravity field. Planets could orbit around it comfortably. "Show me the current situation," she ordered. Floating screens filled the air around her. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Emergency meetings were being called every few hours. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy as more human ships revealed themselves. But the most important information was hidden from the younger species. The real scope of humanity's deception was finally being revealed. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Hoon Park appeared as a floating image beside her. He was commanding operations from Deep Site 7, coordinating the awakening of humanity's true military might. "Admiral Kim," he said with a slight bow. "Good to see you awake. How many ships are active?" she asked. 2,000 so far, with more coming online every hour. The ancient bases are powering up. The weapon platforms are ready. Most importantly, we have restored control over the hyperspace network." Kim nodded. That was the key to everything. Every species in the galaxy depended on the hyperspace lanes for faster-than-light travel. They thought these were natural events, streams of altered space-time that allowed ships to travel between stars quickly. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had built the entire network 50,000 years ago. Every hyperspace lane, every jump point, every shortcut between systems had been constructed by human engineers. The younger species were using humanity's roads without even knowing it. "Are we ready to demonstrate?" Kim asked. "The Velkari Empire is gathering everything they have," Park replied. "They are calling it the largest fleet ever assembled. 100,000 ships, including their newest dreadnought." Kim smiled. "Perfect. Which ship do you recommend for the demonstration?" "Captain Young-Mi Lee has volunteered. She is commanding the Silent Covenant." "The Silent Covenant?" Kim was impressed. That ship was small by human standards, only 8 kilometers long, but it had been built during humanity's golden age, when their technology was at its peak. "Tell her to proceed," Kim ordered. Meanwhile, in the space near Proxima Centauri, the largest fleet ever assembled by the younger species was gathering. The Velkari Empire had called in favors from every ally they had. The Harkons had sent their best ships. The Zeltar had provided their new quantum torpedoes. Even the mysterious Nathari had contributed vessels. Fleet Admiral Sekthan commanded from the bridge of the World Ender, the newest and most powerful ship in the Velkari arsenal. The massive dreadnought carried weapons that could crack planets and shields that could stop entire fleets. 100,000 ships, he said to his officers. "The humans have shown us maybe a dozen vessels. Even if their technology is advanced, they cannot match these numbers." His intelligence officer, Commander Velkar, was not so sure. "Sir, the energy readings from their ships are unlike anything we have ever seen. Perhaps we should try to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Sekthan laughed. "The Velkari Empire does not negotiate with primitives who got lucky with some ancient technology." The fleet moved toward human space in perfect formation. It was a sight that would have terrified any normal enemy. Ships stretched across space for light hours in every direction. Their combined firepower could destroy entire solar systems. Then they detected a single ship approaching them. "Sir," the sensor operator called out. "One vessel 8 kilometers long. It is moving directly toward our fleet." Sekthan looked at the tactical display. One ship against 100,000. Either the humans were insane or they were more confident than anyone had a right to be. "Contact them," he ordered. Captain Young-Mi Lee appeared on the communication screen. She was young-looking, but her eyes held the weight of ages. She had fought in wars that spanned multiple galaxies, commanding fleets that current science could not imagine. "Velkari fleet," she said calmly. "You are in human space without permission. Turn around and leave." Sekthan stared at her in disbelief. "Human, you face 100,000 warships. Surrender now and we might let your species survive." Lee smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "I am offering you the same mercy you offered us. This is your last chance to leave peacefully." You are either brave or stupid, Sekthan replied. Fire all weapons! The Velkari fleet opened fire as one. Energy beams that could melt continents. Missiles that could crack moons. Weapons that represented the best technology the younger species had ever developed. All of it struck the Silent Covenant. At the same time, the human ship did not even slow down. Captain Lee watched the light show with mild interest. The alien weapons struck her ship's shields and simply vanished. The energy was absorbed and converted into power for her own systems. My turn, she said quietly. She activated one weapon. Just one. The Silent Covenant had been built to fight enemies that could reshape reality itself. The Velkari fleet was not even worth a full weapons test. Space itself seemed to tear around the human ship. A wave of energy rolled out from its position, moving faster than light and passing harmlessly through every human vessel in the area. When it reached the Velkari fleet, the ships did not explode. They did not burn or break apart. They simply stopped existing. 100,000 vessels, representing the combined might of 12 species, were unmade at the molecular level. Their matter was converted into energy and absorbed by the Silent Covenant. In less than 10 seconds, the largest fleet ever assembled became nothing but scattered atoms. Fleet Admiral Sekthan had time for one last thought before his atoms joined the rest. This was not a battle between equals. This was not even a battle. It was extermination. The news reached the Galactic Council within hours. 100,000 ships destroyed by a single human vessel. The combined military might of 12 empires reduced to cosmic dust in moments. Panic spread across the galaxy. Emergency meetings were called. Some species tried to surrender immediately. Others demanded explanations that no one could give. On Earth, in the offices of the Human Colonial Administration, Director So-Ra Kim watched the reports with calm satisfaction. She had been born after humanity went into hiding, but she understood the weight of the secret her species had kept. Open a channel to all Galactic Council members, she ordered her communications officer. The message went out across the galaxy, carried by the same hyperspace network that humanity had built and controlled for 50 millennia. Leaders of the Galactic Council, Director Kim said, her voice reaching every world in known space. For 50,000 years, humanity has hidden its true nature. We went backward on purpose, pretending to be young and weak. We did this to protect you. She paused, letting the implications sink in. The ships you have seen represent a tiny fraction of our real military strength. The technology you consider impossible is simple engineering by our standards. The hyperspace lanes you use for travel were built by our ancestors before your civilizations existed. Another pause. We are not your enemies. We never have been. But we will no longer hide what we are. The galaxy faces a threat far worse than any territorial dispute. You have a choice: accept our guidance and protection, or face what is coming alone. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. In the darkness between galaxies, ancient sensors detected the energy signature of humanity's awakening fleets. Something vast and hungry turned its attention toward the Milky Way and began moving faster. Captain Mirensong opened her eyes for the first time in 12,000 years. The freezing chamber around her filled with warm mist as ancient systems brought her back to life. Her body felt stiff, but her mind was sharp. The improvements her ancestors had given her meant she woke up as strong and alert as the day she went to sleep. The chamber walls showed information that made her smile coldly. The younger species had finally pushed too hard. It was time for humanity to stop pretending. She stood up and walked to the control room of her ship, the Eternal Vigil. The vessel was 15 kilometers from front to back. Its hull was made of materials that bent space around them. The ship looked more like a living animal than a machine, with smooth curves that flowed like water and surfaces that seemed to move when she looked at them. Commander Han, she called out. Jin Wu Han had been sleeping in the chamber next to hers. Like her, he was a relic from humanity's golden age, kept alive through technology that current science could not explain. Captain, Han replied as he joined her on the bridge, I see the young ones finally woke us up. The Galactic Council wants us to leave 17 star systems, Song said, reading the mission briefing. They think we are too weak to fight back, Han laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. How many ships do they have? About 50,000 across all 12 empires. We used to call that a patrol group. The bridge around them came to life as the ship's computer woke up. Screens appeared in the air, showing them everything that had happened while they slept. The rise of the younger species. Their primitive technology. Their simple understanding of physics and war. Orders from Admiral Lee, Song read from her personal screen. Show them what real power looks like. Start with something small. She touched a button and the ship began to move, not with the crude rocket engines that other species used, but by folding space itself. The Eternal Vigil stepped out of normal reality for a moment, then appeared thousands of kilometers away. The ship had been hidden in the outer part of Earth's solar system, disguised as a small asteroid. Now it revealed itself and every sensor in the local area went crazy. On Luna Base, the main tracking station for human space, workers stared at their screens in confusion. "What is that?" asked operator Dalho Shin. His boss, Chief Woojin Nam, looked at the readings and shook his head. "The computer says it is a ship. But the power output, that cannot be right." The Eternal Vigil was not hiding its true nature anymore. Energy readings showed power generation equal to a small star. The gravity effects of its engines were bending space-time in ways that made nearby computers crash. Deep in space, the Velkari war fleet was moving toward human territory. Admiral Kethran commanded from the bridge of the Dominus Eternus, a massive warship that had never lost a battle. The ship could crack planets with its main weapons and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. "How long until we reach human space?" he asked. 18 hours, his navigation officer replied. "Our scouts report no major human military presence in the area." Kethran smiled. This would be easy. The humans would see his fleet and give up immediately. No one was stupid enough to fight the Velkari Empire's greatest warship. Then his sensors operator called out in confusion. "Admiral, we are detecting a massive gravity distortion directly ahead." "Show me," Kethran ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made the entire bridge fall silent. A ship was approaching them, but it looked nothing like the crude human vessels they had studied. This was something beyond their understanding. The Eternal Vigil glided toward them like a living thing. Its hull seemed to flow and shift. Lights moved across its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Most disturbing of all, space itself seemed to bend around the ship, creating visual effects that their science could not explain. "What is that?" Kethran whispered. His communications officer was getting frantic messages from across the fleet. "All ships are reporting sensor failures. Their targeting systems cannot lock onto the human vessel." "How big is it?" Kethran asked. 15 kilometers long. "But the mass readings?" "Admiral, the computer says it weighs more than a moon." Captain Song watched the Velkari fleet through her ship's sensors, primitive vessels with basic weapons and simple armor. She had faced enemies like this when she was young, back when humanity was still learning how to fight wars between the stars. "Contact them," she told Commander Han. The communication went through instantly. The Velkari admiral appeared on her screen, his blue face showing confusion and fear. "Human vessel," Kethran said, trying to sound commanding. "You will surrender immediately. You are outnumbered 50 to 1, Song smiled. "I am Captain Miran Song of the Terran Deep Fleet. You are in human space without permission." "Terran Deep Fleet?" Kethran looked confused. "We have no records of such an organization." "You would not," Song replied. "We have been sleeping for a very long time, but your threats against our worlds have woken us up." She gestured to Commander Han, who turned on the ship's primary weapons. The Eternal Vigil had been built to fight enemies that could reshape reality itself. The Velkari fleet was barely worth its attention. "This is your only warning," Song continued. "Leave human space now or face the consequences." Kethran's fear was replaced by anger. "You dare threaten the Velkari Empire? We have conquered 1,000 worlds, and we have built 1,000 galaxies," Song replied calmly. "Fire a warning shot." Commander Han touched a single control. One of the ship's smallest weapons activated, sending a beam of energy toward the Velkari fleet. The beam was so small that it barely showed up on their sensors. It hit an asteroid floating nearby and turned the entire rock into pure energy in less than a second. The Velkari fleet went silent. An asteroid the size of a city had simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but a brief flash of light. "That was 1% power," Song said into the communication channel. "Our main weapons work on a slightly different scale." Admiral Kethran stared at his sensor readings. The human ship had destroyed the asteroid without even slowing down. The energy output from that single shot was more than his entire fleet could produce. This is impossible, he whispered. Leave now, Song said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded fleets that spanned galaxies. Tell your leaders what you have seen. Tell them that humanity is no longer hiding. The Velkari fleet turned and ran. Across the galaxy, other human ships were waking up. The Genesis Dawn, a mobile shipyard the size of a small moon, emerged from the gas clouds of a distant nebula. The Infinity's Edge, whose weapons existed partly outside normal space-time, revealed itself near the galactic core. On the Galactic Council Station, emergency meetings were called as reports flooded in. Ships that violated known physics were appearing throughout human space. Energy readings that made no sense. Technology that belonged in myths, not reality. Ambassador Thexelan sat in his private chambers, staring at the sensor data his intelligence agents had gathered. One human ship had made his empire's greatest fleet retreat without firing a real shot. Get me a communication channel to Earth, he told his aide. We need to talk. The elevator went down through solid rock for 10 kilometers. Admiral Taemin Lee stood quietly as the numbers on the screen got bigger and bigger. Very few people in the galaxy knew this place existed. Even fewer knew what was at the bottom. The doors opened to show Deep Sight 7, humanity's biggest secret. The room was huge, cut from living rock and filled with technology that looked nothing like the simple machines other species knew humans had. Floating screens showed star maps that covered not just one galaxy but many galaxies far away. Admiral Lee, Dr. Hai Jin Cho, walked up to him. She looked young, but her eyes seemed very old, like she had seen things that would surprise most people. The council has been waiting for you. They walked through hallways with thick glass windows. Behind the glass were huge rooms filled with objects that would make alien scientists go crazy with excitement. Ships that bent light around them. Weapons that could fold space itself. Technology that other species thought came from gods, not people. The meeting room had 12 people inside. These were the real leaders of humanity. Not the politicians who appeared on galactic news, but the guardians who had kept humanity's secrets for 50,000 years. Report, Lee said as he sat down. General Yun-Soo Park turned on a floating screen. She was old enough to remember when humanity first met the younger species. The Galactic Council wants us to leave 17 systems. They say they will attack us if we refuse. How many ships do they have? Dr. Cho asked. Their combined fleets have just over 50,000 ships, replied Captain Suman Han, who was in charge of intelligence. That would have been impressive by current standards. During our golden age, we would have called it a small patrol group. Lee nodded. The numbers meant nothing to him. He had commanded fleets with millions of ships, back when humanity ruled not just one galaxy, but several. Tell them the truth, Dr. Cho said. Her voice was firm but tired. She had spent decades studying humanity's hidden history, watching her people pretend to be something they were not. The room became silent. This was the question they had been asking for centuries. How long could humanity hide? When would they show their true nature? Show them, Lee said finally. Begin with the historical records. Dr. Cho turned on another screen. Pictures filled the air around them. Not the fake history that galactic databases contained, but the real story of humanity's rise and fall and careful hiding. 50,000 years ago, humanity had learned how to travel faster than light. Not the crude jump drives that current species used, but technology that let them step outside normal space completely. Within a few thousand years, they had spread across multiple galaxies. They built the hyperspace lanes that all current species used for travel. They made massive space stations that other civilizations now called ancient ruins and artifacts from the gods. They planted life on worlds and helped dozens of species evolve. We were like gods, Dr. Cho said quietly. We created wonders that current science cannot explain. We could build stars, move planets, create life itself. Then what happened? Captain Han asked. She knew the story but needed to hear it again. The screen changed. Pictures of darkness spreading between galaxies, entire star groups going silent, something vast and hungry moving through the universe, eating everything in its path. The Devourers came, Lee said. We fought them for 10,000 years. We used everything we had. Fleets that could break solar systems, weapons that could destroy reality itself. It was not enough. The pictures showed the retreat, humanity leaving their great cities, destroying their own technology so it would not fall into the wrong hands, scattering across the galaxies to hide and wait and hope. We went backward on purpose, Dr. Cho explained. We destroyed our records, buried our technology, pretended to be primitive. We let other species think we were young and weak. It was the only way to survive. And it worked, General Park added. The Devourers passed through our galaxy 30,000 years ago. They found nothing worth eating. The young species were too primitive to interest them. They moved on to hunt bigger prey. The room was quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. Humanity had saved the galaxy by becoming invisible. But now, Captain Han asked. Lee stood up and walked to the main screen. He touched a button, and the picture changed to show current galactic politics, the rising tensions between empires, the arms races, the fights over territory. Now the galaxy is starting to look like it did 50,000 years ago, he said. Advanced technology, large fleets, beings who think they are the masters of the universe, the kind of targets that attract unwanted attention. He touched another button. The screen showed deep space sensor readings from the galaxy's edge. Strange energy signatures, bends in space-time, signs that something very large was moving between the stars. They are coming back, Lee said simply. Dr. Cho gasped. General Park said a bad word under her breath. Captain Han just stared at the readings. How long do we have? Dr. Cho asked. Maybe 50 years? Maybe less. Lee turned back to face the room. Which means we cannot hide anymore. We need to wake up our real fleets. We need to prepare the galaxy for what is coming. Far above their heads, Captain Jae-ho Yoon commanded the spy ship Silent Wind. To the galaxy, it looked like a simple patrol vessel. In reality, it carried sensors that could detect ships on the other side of the galaxy. Captain, his communications officer called out. We are getting massive gravity readings from the outer rim. Yoon looked at the data. Ships were jumping into normal space using technology that should not exist. The energy signatures were impossible to fake. Something very big and very advanced was moving. Send a message to Deep Site 7, he ordered. Tell them the Velkari Empire is getting ready for war. Their biggest ship is heading toward human space. The message reached Admiral Lee within minutes. He read it and smiled grimly. The Velkari Empire wants to show us their strength, he said to his council. Perhaps it is time we showed them ours. He turned on his personal communicator and sent out a signal that had not been used for 12,000 years. Across the galaxy, ancient systems received the code and began to wake up. In hidden bases built into asteroid fields, manufacturing systems that had slept since before the current species existed began making ships. Not the simple vessels the galaxy knew about, but the real tools of war that humanity had used to rule the stars. On Earth, in places deeper than Deep Site 7, freezing chambers began opening. Soldiers who had fought wars bigger than anything the current galaxy could imagine opened their eyes and got ready for battle once more. The Velkari Empire thought they were dealing with a young, weak species. They were about to learn that they had challenged the oldest and most powerful civilization in the galaxy. The secret was about to be told. The Great Hall was filled with angry voices. Captain Dong-ho Kim stood in the center of the room, surrounded by creatures from across the galaxy. Some were tall and blue like the Velkari. Others were short with scales like the Harkons. A few floated in the air like living clouds. All of them were staring at him with hate in their eyes. The room itself was huge. The walls went up so high that the top was lost in darkness. Bright lights made everything glow. Giant screens showed maps of star systems from all over the galaxy. This was where the most important decisions in known space were made. Kim did not look afraid. His simple black uniform was plain compared to the fancy clothes the aliens wore. His face showed nothing. He had been a soldier for 30 years, and he knew how to stay calm when everyone around him wanted him dead. Ambassador Thexlan stood up from his chair. He was one of the Velkari, with blue skin that seemed to glow under the lights. His people had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years. They thought they were better than everyone else. Humans, Thexlan said in a loud voice that echoed through the hall. You have gone too far this time. Your ships are in our space. You have taken our worlds. This cannot continue, Kim said nothing. He kept his hands behind his back and waited. Your people are babies, Thexlan went on. You have only been traveling between stars for 300 years. We were building empires when your world was still covered in ice. You have no right to challenge us. General Vexmore of the Harkon stood up next. He was covered in green scales that made a rattling sound when he moved. His people were known for being cruel in war. Look at their ships, Vexmore laughed. It sounded like rocks being crushed together, made of simple metal. Basic weapons. Old technology. They think these toys can fight real warships. Other aliens around the room started talking. The bug-like Zeltar made clicking sounds with their mouths. The gas creatures called Nethari hummed in agreement. Everyone seemed to think the same thing. Humans were weak and stupid. Kim finally spoke. His voice was quiet but clear. What do you want from us, want? Thexlan's voice got higher. We are not asking for anything. We are telling you what will happen. You will leave 17 star systems immediately. You will pay us for the damage you have caused. You will stay in your home system and never leave again. The alien leaders all nodded. They had talked about this before Kim arrived. The decision was already made. Humanity would do what they said or face war. What if we say no? Kim asked. General Vexmore stood up again. His scales rattled louder. Then we will destroy you. Our fleets have more than 50,000 ships. Your entire navy has maybe 200. The choice should be easy. Kim nodded slowly like he understood. I need to talk to my government first. You have 1 week, Thexlan said. Come back with your answer. But remember, there is only one answer we will accept. As the meeting ended, Commander So-Young Park walked up to the alien leaders. She was younger than Kim, with short black hair and smart eyes. She had been quiet during the whole meeting. Can I speak to you privately? She asked. The aliens looked at each other. Finally, Thexlan nodded. What could you possibly say that would matter? Park waited until most of the aliens had left the room. Only the main leaders stayed behind. When it was quiet, she spoke. I want to give you some advice. Making humanity fight would be a very bad idea. General Vexmore laughed again. Are you threatening us? Your weapons cannot even scratch our armor. This is not a threat, Park said calmly. This is friendly advice from someone who cares about your people. There are things about humanity that you do not know. Things we have kept hidden. Hidden. The bug leader, Kigzar, made fast clicking sounds. We know everything about your history. Primitive world. Slow progress. No advanced technology. There are no secrets. Park shook her head. That is what we wanted you to think. The alien leaders looked confused now. Thexlan stepped closer to her. What are you talking about? I cannot tell you the details, Park said. But think about this. If we were really as weak as you believe, why would we risk war with 12 empires? Why would we take systems you claim belong to you? Does that sound like something a primitive species would do? The room got very quiet. For a moment, the aliens looked uncertain. Then General Vexmore made a disgusted sound. Desperation, he said. Your people need resources. You gambled and lost. That is all. Park bowed her head slightly. Maybe you are right, I hope so. For everyone's sake. She turned and walked away, leaving the alien leaders talking quietly among themselves. Outside in the hallway, Captain Kim was waiting for her. His personal communicator made a soft beeping sound. He looked at the message and his face did not change, but something shifted in his eyes. The message was short. Protocol 7 has been authorized. The old fleet stirs. Kim showed the message to Park. She read it and took a deep breath. How long? She asked. The first ship should wake up in a few days, Kim said quietly. The others will follow soon after. They walked through the station's corridors toward their shuttle. All around them, aliens from dozens of worlds went about their daily business. Merchants selling goods, diplomats having meetings, tourists seeing the sights. None of them knew that everything was about to change forever. Do you think they will listen when they see the truth? Park asked. Kim was quiet for a long time. The smart ones will understand. The others will learn the hard way. Their shuttle was small and looked ordinary, like most human technology that the galaxy knew about. The pilot, Lieutenant Jae Sung Ko, looked up when they came aboard. How did it go? He asked. Exactly as we expected, Kim replied. Take us home. As the shuttle left the station, none of the aliens watching noticed anything strange about its engines. The energy reading was so quick and weak that most sensors missed it completely. The few that caught it thought their equipment was broken. Far away in empty space between the stars, ancient machines were waking up. Systems that had been sleeping longer than any current civilization had existed began to turn on. In hidden shipyards built inside hollow asteroids, construction systems came online. Deep under Earth's oceans, In places that did not appear on any map, red lights changed to yellow. People who had been in frozen sleep for decades started to wake up. Admiral Tae-Min Lee opened his eyes for the first time in 50 years. The room around him was filled with cold mist as the freezing systems shut down. Screens showed him everything that had happened while he slept. The situation with the Galactic Council, the threats against human colonies, the timeline they had hoped never to use. "Time to wake the old guardians," he said to the empty room. All across the galaxy, ancient sensors detected the power-up sequences, but the readings made no sense to current science. The energy was impossible. The technology seemed to break the known laws of physics. Most observers thought the readings were natural events or broken equipment. A few, however, began to wonder if there might be more to humanity than anyone realized. The Galactic Council had given humanity 6 months to do what they demanded. They expected humans to beg for mercy or fight a hopeless battle with their small, primitive fleet. They had no idea that they had just woken up something that had been sleeping since before their civilizations were born, something that had chosen to stay hidden, watching and waiting until the time came to show the truth. That time was now.